how should people start planning now? I mean, they haven't been paying this back since March of 2020. So that's 3 years without these payments. If they resume in June, what would you recommend people start doing now to prepare?
Honestly, not only have people not been making payments, roughly 20% of all student loan borrowers have never made a payment on their student loan because they've graduated in the last few years and they've never even had to do this. So borrowers need to look at what their monthly payment would be. They need to log into studentaid.gov and see what their repayment plan options, understand where their loans are. And most importantly, they need to make sure that their loan servicer has their correct information so that they don't miss a billing statement or any notifications about their student loans. The worst thing that could happen is that you kind of ignore everything going on with your student loans, payments start to resume, and you suddenly find yourself in delinquency or default because you missed an email or you missed a letter because you didn't update your information. However, if payments do resume, make sure you're budgeting that payment into your monthly budget. And that might also mean like looking at different repayment plan options like income-driven repayment or other options.
This is a lot of news surrounding student loans and borrowing, things like that. Is there any other updates borrowers should be looking out for?
I mean, there are a lot of changes happening with student loans beyond the payment pause and student loan forgiveness. We have changes to borrower defense to repayment. We have a new potential student loan repayment plan coming this fall. We have the Fresh Start initiative, which is helping borrowers who were in default prior to the pandemic. They get a fresh start where they can get out of delinquency or default if they take certain actions with their student loans. And there's also been changes to the way the government is handling bankruptcy and student loan debt. So even if you were counting on this blanket student loan forgiveness, realize that there actually might be other ways for you to get help with your student loans with all of these new different initiatives that are coming.
Can you dive into that a little deeper? What is the government doing regarding bankruptcy and student loan debt? What are those changes?
Absolutely. So one of the big myths with student loans is that they could never be forgiven in bankruptcy. And that has always been a myth, but it's not true. Student loans can be forgiven in bankruptcy. It's just very rare because you have to show undue hardship that making these student loan payments would just be way too difficult based on your financial situation. And when you look at things like an income-driven repayment plan, your loan payment could be $0 per month. So when a judge looks at that and they say, well, there's no undue hardship here because you're at $0 a month and then your loan could be forgiven in the future, why do we need to discharge it in bankruptcy? However, there were some people that kind of fell through the cracks. Maybe they had other types of debt, medical debt, things like that, that those payments were an undue hardship. Well, the new changes to bankruptcy basically says that the Department of Education is not going to fight you on getting your loans discharged in bankruptcy anymore. So if you actually did file for bankruptcy discharge with your student loans, you still have to show an undue hardship, but the government's not going to challenge it anymore, which is a big relief for borrowers, and it might see more borrowers qualify for bankruptcy discharge.
There's a lot going on here regarding student loan news. What has the response been from borrowers?
Mass confusion. There is so many different moving parts. There's so much uncertainty. Even things like the repayment pause, we're going to start them, we're going to stop them. They don't tell you until 20 days before like payments are due. It's been extremely confusing for borrowers. I really hope the Department of Education, when payments do restart, the Supreme Court resolves this, really takes some time to reflect how they're communicating with borrowers and put together a cohesive plan so that borrowers know when to restart payments, what their payment's going to be. They need to really communicate this better because it has been nothing but maybe a year and a half of really confusing communications.
And there's definitely a lot of moving parts to all of this, depending on what type of borrower you are, what's your income, and everything like that. But what is the biggest piece of advice you would give to borrowers?
The number one thing is to get organized. You have to know what you have. The average student loan borrower actually has 5 different loans, right? Because you took one out every single year of college, freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, maybe a summer semester or another year of college. And they all might be at different loan servicers. So you need to track down where your student loans are. You need to find out what you owe. And then you need to make sure your contact information is updated. Finally, you need to understand your repayment plan options. So when student loan payments do restart, find the one that's most affordable for you. That could be an income-driven repayment plan, things like that, which require you to take another step of certifying your income with your loan servicer. But by doing all those things, you can be ready for when student loan payments do resume, probably this fall.
Robert Farrington, thank you so much.